This is ANN News Brief.
A doctors' committee linked to Sudan's protest movement said on Sunday a civilian allegedly detained and tortured by security agents has died in custody in the town of Deling in the state south of Kordofan in the central part of the country. Rights groups and activists had regularly accused state intelligence agents of cracking down on dissidents and restricting freedoms during the regime of veteran leader Omar al-Bashir, who was ousted in April. It was National Intelligence Service that led a sweeping crackdown on protests against Bashir's rule that first erupted in December. Dozens were killed and hundreds of protesters, activists and opposition leaders were arrested during the months-long campaign that led to Bashir's overthrow and subsequent demonstrations calling for civilian rule. Last week, a power-sharing deal was signed between protest leaders and the ruling generals who seized power after ousting Bashir. Switzerland says it is helping the government of Cameroon negotiate with rebels to end the separatist crisis in Cameroon. Swiss Ambassador Petro Lazari spoke in Yaoundé about reconciliation attempt after more than 20 persons were killed within 2 days of fighting in the crisis-stricken regions. The ambassador says his country is mediating the political crisis that has plagued Cameroon's English-speaking northwest and southwest regions for 3 years now. He says the negotiations are being guided by the Swiss Federal Department of Foreign Affairs. Separatist says on social media 2 meetings already have taken place in Geneva, but no details were given. The crisis escalated in October 2017 when militant secessionist groups symbolically proclaimed independence from the English-speaking state of Ambazonia. The United Nations estimate at least 2,000 persons have been killed and more than 500,000 displaced since fighting broke out. It says nearly 1.5 million persons are in need of assistance. We'll be back after this message.
We are on the road every day, canvassing throughout Africa for news you really need. We follow this story everywhere, from every corner of Nigeria to the wide African expanse. We bring you what's making headlines. We connect you with news you can use. ANN, African News Network, in a truly African spirit.
The World Food Programme says at least 2 million Mozambicans who were caught in 2 devastating cyclones earlier this year are at risk of severe food shortages and need urgent international assistance. Hundreds were killed, tens of thousands were made homeless, and livelihoods were lost when cyclones Idai and Kenneth hit Mozambique with devastating force in March and April. The destructive power of the 2 storms has wreaked havoc on the country's infrastructure and agriculture. World Food Programme says more than 1.5 million persons are suffering from acute food insecurity, and the worst is yet to come. Meanwhile, the UN says the food situation in Zimbabwe is moving from a crisis mode to an emergency because of a Yinyo-induced drought and the ongoing economic meltdown in the country. A recent report by UN aid agencies and the government says Zimbabwe needs more than $200 million to stave off hunger for about 5.5 million persons in the coming 9 months when the next harvest is expected, and that is if there will be enough rain. That's ANN News Brief. For details on these and other breaking stories, visit our website, annafrica.news. Conversation continues on our social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram and Facebook at ANN Africa TV. I am Lucy Adeyemi.